is your weekly celestial outlook for the week of October 17th, 2022. Now, to begin the week, we've got a T square in the cardinal signs of Cancer, Libra, and Pluto. And as we move further into the afternoon of October 17th on Monday, there is this little bit of an annoying sense of the need to get things done. And it is a little bit of an annoyance between the need for business to get work accomplished, powerful Pluto, the need to socialize and to connect with people, and the need for security and home and family. Maybe on Monday, we may be feeling like we're a little sluggish, maybe slacking off a little bit with that cardinal T square. Nonetheless, because it is a T square in the cardinal signs between the moon, Venus, and the sun, and Pluto, although with the Libra emphasis, it is rather pleasant socially, we will nonetheless focus on our goals. Although, do be mindful later on the day of a little bit of edginess going on there. Then we also have equally for pretty much most of this week, we have yet the Grand Air Trine. Now that's real nice because it allows us to really open up and communicate. And as mentioned, that will stay in effect pretty much for most of the week. And then, of course, next week, Saturn will then station direct, and that will be very, very active and a busy time from that point on, especially since Saturn is connected with the taskmaster Capricorn. And so we're really going to be turning up the volume and the activity as far as our goals and aspirations. But that is for next week and onward. But as with the Grand Air Trine, yes, this allows us to open up and communicate and express ourselves without getting too dramatic. And always, air is very intellectual, very technical, and connected with our humanity. And Gemini and especially Libra also have a bit of that in common, especially with the Aquarius and Libra connection. And with Venus, with the sun, and falling into that grand air trine as well, we are going to be very mindful this week, especially on Monday, with the artistic and social graces, the sense of beauty, aesthetics. This might be a time when we find that beautifying our environment Monday, Tuesday, possibly going into early Wednesday is very important. And with the Cancer moon, the sense of comfort is also additionally important. So, early on in the week, it's about feeling comfortable, being surrounded by beauty, having a sense of our creativity, and opening up and having very productive, non-dramatic and non-emotional discussions, which is very good. So let's look at the following day, which is Tuesday, and that will be the 18th. And that's going to be a good day because we then have the moon early on in the sign of Leo, and now we've got Jupiter retrograde at 0 critical of Aries. But it makes a really pleasant trine to the sign of Leo. So early on in the morning, on Tuesday, the 18th, we are going to have a sense of enthusiasm and positivity that nothing can go wrong. It's a good time. If you would like a little advice, maybe play that lotto or bet on something that is very sure, no matter what that is, because you might find you might win. Just a little advice there. But nonetheless, with that moon in very magnanimous Leo and expressive Leo, and Jupiter in lucky Aries, even retrograde, this is the time to really make plans for what you want for the future. And with that fire connection, this is a time to carry out those plans. And we will be very enthusiastic on Tuesday morning to really get things done, feeling a sense that we are moving forward and progressing with our goals, and that's very positive. And of course, we still have the grand air trine, good time for communication, but guess what? Yes, we still have this fixed sign T square with with the North Node and Uranus at 17 degrees of Taurus. We've got the South Node in Scorpio at 13 degrees. And for this week and now for Tuesday, Saturn still retrograde in Aquarius. That makes a T square. So guess what? There is building tension. And it's very important, especially with the fixed signs, not to become too uh, overly well fixed and stubborn in our outlook. And I say this because by Wednesday, let's flip to Wednesday here, we will have the moon at 16 degrees of Leo by noon. And on Wednesday, there may be some disruptions, and always with the square, especially connected with Uranus and the other fixed signs. It's really about being open minded and, as always, expect the unexpected. So we may have come Wednesday and then into early Thursday some issues with, yes, with bullying or conflicts. And it's a time not to get into kind of petty tit for tat Wednesday, early Thursday, because of this tension between the fixed signs. And now with Leo, especially, there is a complete grand cross in the fixed sign. So likely this will affect you greater if you are excuse me, not Cancer, that's the mutable. If you are Aquarius, Scorpio, Leo, or Taurus, you will probably feel the effect much stronger. And yes, it is important to check your personal natal chart as to where these planets lie in your chart and what houses will affect you personally. Nonetheless, it is a heads up for the middle of the week for Wednesday. Now we're going to jump back a little bit here and we're going to look a day back, and that is when the moon was in Cancer. And that was on the 17th. So I wanted to mention something very positive here with the moon in Cancer. And that is on Monday that there's a really sweet connection between retrograde Neptune in Pisces and the moon in Cancer. That's kind of a very dreamy, sensitive aspect. So another transit for Monday is the connection or the trine between Neptune and the moon. So it's a time for imagination. It's a time, even amongst the cardinal T square between the moon, Venus, and the sun, and Pluto, although it's a time for hard work and focus. And on the other hand, we may be feeling a little sluggish, but yes, it is also a time for dreaminess and acute imagination. Really put forth some of those ideas for your future on paper, and it's a great time to become empathetic, sympathetic, if you will, and really express your emotions in a positive light. Now, let's just kind of jump forward again a couple days here, and we're going to look forward to Wednesday. So now, Tuesday, yes, we have the moon in Leo as discussed, and on Wednesday and as well. And do be careful of needless conflicts Wednesday. Thank goodness we still have that detached grand air trine. Now, moving forward, going into Thursday, we have the moon going void in the sign of Leo. So that's not a time to sign on the line on Thursday. But nonetheless, the moon in Leo does make a sweet sextile to the sun and Venus. And anytime you have a sextile, that's very productive. And there's also late on Wednesday a sextile between Mars, the planet of action, and the moon in Leo. But once Thursday rolls around, the moon will make a somewhat of a wide sextile to Mars and also to the sun and Venus in creative Libra. So that's really very positive. So, especially with the edginess of Wednesday, this will be a welcome change in attitude and outlook come Thursday, because we're going to be feeling back to the sense of enthusiasm and positivity. Always, generally, sextiles are very productive and very positive indeed. Although we do have here, because we're going to be going very soon later on in the day, on Thursday, to the moon in Virgo. So that's going to start to change the tone a little bit. And let's move forward, and you will see what I mean come Friday. So we're going to move forward a day here to Friday. Now, the moon is in Virgo. And the moon in Virgo, very different from very generous Leo, is more about pickiness, more about analytical outlook, and a little bit of some criticism thrown in there. But equally, the moon in Virgo is very practical and very sensible, very research oriented. So the complete tone changes by Friday. And on that day, we have later on, we have and into Saturday, an applying square with Mars in Gemini. And especially since Mars now is going to go retrograde at the end of October and is now in its retrograde stage. So Mars is starting to slow down, and that's not kind of helping out this moon in Virgo starting off on Friday. And then we will have come Saturday an applying square off, in fact, mutable square off between the moon in Virgo, Neptune retrograde in Pisces, and Mars, the planet of action, in Gemini. So, what is anything and everything connected with Neptune but a little bit foggy and deceptive? And we may feel a little bit back to the sluggish thing that we had going on a couple days earlier. We're wanting to get going on Friday, but we're feeling like we're feeling a little dreamy, maybe lost in some fantasy, which isn't so bad. It's great for your aims and your ambitions for the future to have a little bit of some good ideas. But with that applying or approaching T square in the mutable signs, we may feel, yes, lagging behind, maybe a little bit lazy, but at the same time, there's also an applying trine to Pluto. And Pluto is kind of the encouragement for the moon in Virgo to focus, keep up your ideas and ideals, keep up your business sense and your practicality when you're feeling a little bit lost in confusion and uncertainty with this mutable T square. So let's forward now a day to Saturday. And yes, now the moon officially is at 23 degrees of Virgo on Saturday afternoon. And that's when we have this official T square in the mutable signs. So with Mars there, Mars wants to really get going. It's about variety. It's a very dual sign. You want to do a little bit of this to get done. You want to get done a little bit of that. And we're feeling really restless on Saturday with this T square, still in a little bit of a confused state. And yes, this is not the time to keep information away. However, we may also feel like others could be keeping information from us now, secrets. But at the very least, we may feel like we want to get on the go and get going. But come Saturday, yes, back to that sluggish theme, and it will start to apply on Friday. But now on Saturday, we have now Mercury in the sign still of Libra, falling into that sweet grand trine, although rather wide, and will be closer trine by the following week, with Mercury moving along in the sign of Libra. But that is one kind of rainbow over this week, because it is, even with the good aspects and the not so good aspect, it keeps us focused on positivity and communication and beauty and all that good stuff. So, although, yes, there is a mutable square off, uh, and especially with Mars, Neptune, and the moon in the mutable signs, and we can be a little bit of uncertain of both ourselves, about our speech, about our actions. Uh, but at the same time, with this air trine, it keeps us in a good direction and helps us to keep a good attitude. But equally, the positive here with the moon in Virgo is this sweet, sensible connection with powerful Pluto. So even with the edgy T square, guess what? Moon in Virgo with Pluto is very sensible. It keeps our feet on the ground come Saturday. And what is Earth connected with? Earth is always connected with business, finance, money, and so on. So do watch your money and your finances, investing, and so on come Saturday because of the T square, but it is also a good time to make plans for the future, for your job, for your career, savings. Just don't go overboard on Saturday with spending. Okay, so busy time, but a little bit confusing on Saturday. And also, by the way, there is a trine between Uranus and the North Node in Taurus equally, and the moon in Virgo. So equally, again, very practical, very sensible approach to money and finance. So that with a wide trine, especially on the morning of the 22nd, maybe late on the 21st, it's a good time, or much in the way of discussion about real estate, the economy, and money, finance. This is a time to just keep an eye on your money and don't overspend, but it is a good time to zip up your accounts and be very practical with any and all finances on Saturday. So one positive in that confusing T square on the weekend. But we have that sweet trine with Mercury still keeping communications open. Now, looking ahead to the final day of Sunday, and that is going to be the 22nd. And boy, what a day makes. And finally, guess what? Come Sunday on the 23rd, we then have both the sun and Venus, the planet of love, now both at 0 degrees Scorpio. So the mood is gonna start to change here, especially since we have in just 2 days on Tuesday a new moon in Scorpio, and then they're all going to meet up. But that's the other report and for another day. But nonetheless, the tone will change between the earlier half of the week and now on Sunday with Venus in very passionate Scorpio and the sun in Scorpio, both at 0 critical degrees of Scorpio. And the Venus Sun conjunction in Scorpio will make an inconjunct or a quincunx aspect exact with retrograde Jupiter in Aries. So we have passionate, motivated, power house Scorpio at 0 degrees, Venus and the sun very passionate. And then we have this quincunx at 0 degrees equally in Jupiter. Now, quincunx or inconjunct aspect is that can be a little bit edgy or difficult. It is considered a minor aspect, but in this case, it is very notable because of the sun with Venus making a quincunx with Jupiter retrograde. So we will have to watch out for a little bit of jaded or edgy behavior on Sunday, the 23rd, especially since right now Venus and the sun are in Scorpio, and the mood will change a little bit, even though there is that air grand trine. With the sun in Scorpio, we're going to feel a little bit more driven. And with Scorpio, now we're going to feel more intense. And of course, later on, as we get into November, there will be an applying T-square with Uranus and Saturn. But that is later on into November. So yes, with this 0 degrees Scorpio Venus on Sunday, quincunx Jupiter, we're going to feel very intense. It's about going from this feeling of and sense of balance and harmony, which is still prevalent in the trine, to now feeling like we really want to turn our attitude, turn our actions up into high gear with that Scorpio connection. And especially later on, because Venus and the sun will eventually meet up with the south node in Scorpio, falling into that fixed T-square. So yes, there is this approaching feeling of a little bit of some conflict of opposition in the air. We're going to have to start kind of pulling back a little bit, or especially on the intensity. We don't want to get too carried away with our opinions and our principles about our beliefs and so on. With this Scorpio connection, that we create conflict, and we will have this sense come Sunday. But the beauty here is in 2 days with the new moon in Scorpio, we're going to have a little more sense of positivity. But we have nonetheless on Sunday the moon in Libra. So that, even though that makes a really wide opposition to Jupiter, and especially on Saturday, or very late Saturday, early Sunday morning, that is going to bring us some assistance from others. So remember, the opposition is a bit of a double-edged sword. It's good because the elements are complementary. In this case, air, Libra, and fire, Jupiter in Aries. So within that balance of elements, it is very good. It's about help, assistance. It's about really putting out a lot of good energy towards our goals. And in this case, with Libra and Aries, it's very good for connecting and communicating with others. But we can't ignore that opposition. So, yes, on Sunday, we will have to be cautious additionally of conflict, or what? opposition. If someone disagrees with you, this is a time to take a hint from the grand trine to just detach, have good talk and discussion, but don't get into any tit for tat opposition because of the Libra Jupiter opposition. Nonetheless, we've got Scorpio looming, and then, of course, it will become much more power driven in November with the fixed T square. Now, overall, this week, it's about socializing and creating harmony, peace, and balance, and not getting emotional. It is about on Monday and maybe very, very early Tuesday, but predominantly Monday, it is about taking time to just take it easy, kind of get lost a little bit in some dreaminess to produce a good imagination for your future goals. And then as we get into Tuesday and Wednesday, we've got, especially Tuesday, a trine with Jupiter and the moon. And then Wednesday, which is very productive, then Wednesday, that's the day we will have to be cautious of conflict, because on that day there is going to be the moon in Leo producing a grand cross in the fixed sign. So Wednesday is the day to look out for a little bit of the tension getting turned up there, and a day to just pull back and kind of take it easy as far as any disagreements. Then on Thursday, there's the productive connection with Mars and the moon in Leo. Feeling very positive Thursday again. And then on Friday, and then we've got the moon in Virgo that day. And that's when we're feeling a little secretive, a little deceptive, and who knows, a little confused. But equally with the Earth trine with Pluto and moon in Virgo and Uranus and the North Node in Taurus, a good time to really look into a savings account or just working with money, but because the T square, not overspending. And by the weekend, we've got Venus and the Sun in Scorpio. So the tone come Sunday is going to become more intense and a little bit secretive, I must add, with that Scorpio connection, and much more in 2 days on the new moon. So this is a time you want to reveal. But in general, we're going to feel like, okay, are we being told everything correctly? Are there secrets? What is being hidden? And that will be much more emphasized by November. But for now, because of the quincunx between Jupiter retrograde and Venus, Sun, and Scorpio, it is a time, if you feel a little bit edgy on Sunday as well, then take a hint from the trine and just detach and let all the positive energy of this week just flow.